Hi and welcome to the next video in our series. I'm Shelley Rowe and today I'll introduce the Cognition Intuition Balance Model for effective decision making. Now in the last video I introduced the term infotuition. We'll talk more about that today in the context of this model. But first, some background about the model. See, I learned in my own personal experience as a manager and as a leader that I needed more than just logical, rational problem-solving skills to be successful. Gut feel emerged as a key ingredient. But I wondered if it was just me, so I decided to find out. I interviewed 77 executives on how or if they use their intuition in their leadership and in their decision making. Now, these executives came from a wide range of backgrounds, many in technical fields, some lawyers, a judge, an astronaut, an America's Cup winner, some politicians, people in banking, retail, associations, academia, and more. They were all enriching conversations. To my surprise, 76 of the 77 said that intuition was essential to their leadership success. Now, as we talked further, a pattern emerged in their decision making. You see, their decision making ranged from highly cognitive to highly intuitive, and that varied based on the level of complexity of the decision. So the simpler the decision, the more cognitive. The more complex the decision, the more intuitive the decision making became. So it looks like this. So we have cognitive, and intuitive. And it was like a continuum. And the more cognitive were for simple decisions, and the more complex the decisions became, the more intuitive the decision making became. So think about it. What are some of the simple decisions that you make? What are the characteristics of a simple decision? So perhaps you might think fact-based, low risk, decisions that have a clear underlying principle. Like in some places, safety is a big thing, and so that clear principle can divide a complex and a simple decision. Or a lot of certainty. So think about those simple decisions that you make and how they happen for you. Now, you might not even realize them because sometimes they're just no-brainers, and perhaps you've delegated them or you don't even think about them because they're simple decisions. Now, what are characteristics of complex decisions? And so a lot of it is just the very opposite. So perhaps we have high-risk decisions that are ambiguous. Can't spell ambiguous. That have no clear right or wrong. And the other thing that makes a decision complex is when there are a lot of people. People are one big mass of variables, and so when there are a lot of people involved, it tends to make decision making much more complex. So you think, for example, about political issues. Political issues don't have a clear right or wrong. That the solution is in the eye of the beholder, what's right and what's wrong. Those tend to be highly complex decisions. And in fact, in the interviews with the leaders, those that were more engineering, more lawyers, were typically naturally more cognitively based, and they learned to be more intuitive. But on this end, the people I interviewed who were extremely intuitive naturally were the politicians and the entrepreneurs. and they tended to be much more intuitive in their whole outlook because they're dealing consistently with very complex situations where there's no clear right or wrong, and it's very ambiguous and uncertain as they look into the future. So with this observation, it allowed me to construct the cognition intuition balance model. So here's the framework for the model. Across the x-axis, we have this same continuum that we talked about here. So it ranges from highly cognitive to highly intuitive. And the y-axis is that level of complexity. So it's the number of variables from few to many. And what we're looking for, and what those leaders were able to find, is that sweet spot right in the middle, and that's the infotuitive balance point. So that's that balance point for intuition, infotuition. Now, along this same axis here for infotuition, we also have another continuum that's taking place. Now, I've called these, I've made them into characteristics. So these are no-brainer decisions. And so again, these are ones that you probably don't even think about. You maybe have delegated them. They might be in policies and procedures manuals that you just don't think about them because, well, they're no-brainers. And then as the level of complexity increases, you get up here to decisions that are highly complex, and they require that aha moment that's so awesome when we get that for those big complex decisions. Now, as we move through this program, we're not going to talk a lot about no-brainer decisions. Later on in the program, we will talk about aha moments and how to more consistently enable those aha moments. Now, right now, we're going to talk more about ways that we get out of balance in our decision making. And so in this model, we get out of balance when we overthink a decision. And in this situation, when you overthink a decision, you're trying to take a complex decision with a lot of variables and make it logical and work it out through just the cognitive processing in your brain. And it just doesn't work. As we'll learn later in upcoming modules, there's just almost only so much capacity in that particular part of your brain, and it can't handle a big complex problem just on that cognitive processing alone. And so think about what it's like when you overthink a decision. When you overthink that decision, it can feel very like you're stuck. Like you just can't make any progress. Maybe you find yourself procrastinating, hesitating, and just making it harder than it has to be. It's as though a dog is chasing its tail. That's what this overthinking situation is like. And if you notice when you're overthinking it, you might be aware that you're just not comfortable with the decision. That's a little feeling. And that feeling becomes the key to bringing overthinking more into this infotuitive balance place. Now, the other way that we get out of balance is down here. These are knee-jerk decisions. Knee-jerk decisions. Now, knee-jerk decisions, and we'll talk about this later, they can be both good and bad. Now, the ones that we're most interested in, however, are the knee-jerk decisions that just don't serve you well. They're those decisions that something triggers you and you make that snap decision and you just wish you could take that one back. Those are the knee-jerk decisions that we want to focus on. They too are out of balance, but here we've got a lot more emotion basis going on that's been activated in the brain. And in that situation, the cognitive part of your brain can't do its job. So what we'll learn are some of the skills to manage this knee-jerk response so that you can bring that cognitive processing back online and bring it back up to that infotuitive balance point. So that's the basis of the cognition intuition balance model. And like I say, as we move forward, we're going to first talk about overthinking decisions, then we'll talk about knee-jerk decisions, and finally we'll get to these aha moments so that you can make use of those when you need to. That's it for today. I'm Shelley Rowe, and I look forward to seeing you the next time.